Hello, Spirit House here. I am here to read another chapter or two from The Secret of Light by Walter Russell. It's chapter 7, and it's entitled The Sex Reproductive Principle. All creating things are paired as unbalanced, equal, and opposite sex mates. Reproduction of two unbalanced mates cannot be repeated until balance has first been restored. The calm surface of the ocean may be broken up into waves, but those waves cannot be repeated until the calm surface of the ocean has been restored to the equilibrium of its rest position, even though that rest position is not maintained. Reproduction begins at the rest point where the previous wave cycle ends. Reproduction of unbalance must find a fulcrum from which the wave lever may leap into wave expression for repetition of pattern. That is what creation is, merely the repetition of pattern with added pattern forever. This is a universe of waves within waves and waves without waves, pulsing waves of dual light, extending forever outward to the ends of mirrored space and reflecting back again to microscopic centers of rest from which they may again spring from rest to seek rest through dual motion, but never finding it. This is a sex-divided, opposed two-way electric universe, which creates and voids through unbalanced pairs, but reproduces, in parentheses, through voided ones. Sexes do not unite. Reproduction of dynamic sex pairs does not come through the union of dynamic sex pairs, but from the avoidance of sex condition, and with it the power of dynamic sex expression reproduction. Reproduction is not the unity of two opposite halves of one pattern thing. It is the voiding of the power of dynamic expression which all unbalanced opposites express. Reproduction is the cessation of those two unbalanced conditions which restores a balance from which similarly patterned negative forms reverse their expressions and become positive forms. Sex opposites reproduce through sex voidance. In this manner, all patterned forms repeat their patterns sequentially. All pairs of unbalanced opposites come from God and the One and return balanced as one to God. All unbalanced pairs of separately conditioned things must first find voidance of unbalanced and voidance of opposition. They must then become their own opposites, to again acquire an unbalance necessary for another voidance and consequent repetition. All twos must become voided in the one in order to again become two. Reproduction of unbalanced opposites by unbalanced opposites is impossible. Opposition must first be voided. The dynamic must emerge from rest, and it must be voided in rest in order that it may again become dynamic. The desire for balance. All things seek balance. Two opposed, unbalanced halves of one are forever seeking to balance their opposition. Two children on a seesaw are balanced when they are on a level with their centering fulcrum. When they are on two different levels, they are then unbalanced with their centering fulcrum. Then they are then dynamic. The fulcrum no longer centers them, although they are balanced in themselves. In such a position, they are obliged to move. Repetition of their motion is impossible while they are in balance with their fulcrum, but it is imperative when the fulcrum can no longer centers them. A sexless condition is imperative before a sex condition can be repeated. Just as all motion starts from rest and returns to rest, so does a sexed electric condition arise from a sexless one. The two sexes, therefore, cannot be united to cause reproduction. They must first be voided. Unbalanced condition and change cannot unite to reproduce unbalanced condition and change. The unbalanced condition and change must be voided in order to repeat unbalance and change. Sex opposites do not neutralize, they void. The sexes, like the two opposites of motion, cannot neutralize each other by so-called union, quote unquote. The dynamic cannot be, quote, neutralized, unquote. Likewise, it cannot become static, but it can be voided. The static condition does not then take its place, for the static condition is eternal. It was there before the dynamic condition arose. The dynamic condition of sound, for example, arises from the static condition of silence, but it does not become silence. Sound is voided. Silence is eternal. The dynamic condition of sodium and chlorine do not unite to become the static condition of sodium chloride, nor are they neutralized. They must be voided before they can be repeated. Sex determined by direction of pressures. Opposites are not things. They are conditions of things. Just as heat and cold, or east and west, or inward and outward, or compression and expansion cannot unite to become one, so also the opposite sexes cannot unite, for they are but inward-outward pressures. Sex opposition is a difference in the pressure condition of things. The male condition is one of compression, the female is one of expansion. The sexes are thus differently conditioned by the two directions of electric pressures, in accord with the two opposite desires of the Creator. The difference of conditioning makes basically similar substances appear to be different things and different substances. All things are sex-divided. When, therefore, any two opposed and unbalanced sex halves of one conditioned thing balance their opposed conditioning through motion, they appear to become they appear to become another thing or substance. This appearance is a deception of the senses, for they do not become another thing. They become voided, and another thing from which both are extended appears in their place. In chemistry, we call these pairs stable compounds, such as the salts. Water, for another example, is avoidance of oxygen and hydrogen, for there is no oxygen or hydrogen in water, nor do oxygen and hydrogen become water. Water is the result of the voidance of the two unbalanced and opposed conditions caused by equalizing opposed pressures at static equators. Consider the static condition of the calm ocean. A storm transforms that surface into a dynamic condition. Waves which spring from the static ocean surface toward crests and troughs do not unite to reproduce another wave. They withdraw into the ocean surface. They disappear entirely and then reappear from it in reverse to repeat the next wave. Absolute voidance of one condition must take place before repetition can follow. Voided motion is recorded in the stillness from which it was unfolded in order that it can be repeated from that record. Records of motion are seeds for repetition of motion, and the seed is desire for manifesting image forms of idea. All forms are waveforms. All waveforms unfold let me repeat this paragraph. Records of motion are seeds for repetition of motion. In the seed is desire for manifesting image forms of idea. All forms are waveforms. All waveforms unfold from seed records of those waveforms. And a caption from the Divine Iliad. I am dual thinking mind, thinking two in action and reaction. I am dynamic thinking mind, pulsing with my dynamic thinking. With one pulse beat of my dual thinking, I build my multiple one image and bind them all as one in me. I then cancel them with the other voiding pulse. Each then is not, but both are seed for another two. Thus I produce, void, and reproduce, generate, radiate, and regenerate in cycles without end. For behold, my imaged universe is mirrored to infinity. It is repeated to the endless end. Yet there are but multiples of three in all my universe. And again I say to thee, two of those very three are not but my imaginings, for my Trinity is but one. The two are in me, and they are of me, but they are not me, nor am I them. From the Divine Iliad. Chapter 8. Electricity defined. Electricity is the strain or tension set up by the two opposing desires of universal mind thinking, the desire for balanced action and the desire for rest. This electric universe is a complexity of strains caused by the interaction of these two opposing, interchanging electric desires. All matter is electric. All matter is conditioned into greater or lesser strains, according to the intensity of desire, which is the cause of all electric strain to which it is subjected. The farther removed from rest, the greater the strain or tension. That which we call high electric potential is merely great strain to maintain a condition which is far from the condition of rest. The familiar return ball with which a child plays is a good example of electric strain. When the ball is thrown from the hand, the elastic gradually tightens to increase the tension of resistance to strain generated in the elastic. The strain continues to intensify until the ball comes to rest. When the ball returns, the strain gradually lessens until the ball again comes to rest in the child's hand. When that happens, the strain and tension have been voided. Tension has not become rest, it has ceased to be. This whole electric universe is a complex maze of similar tensions. Every particle of matter in the universe is separated from its condition of oneness, just as the return ball is separated from the hand, and each is connected with the other one by an electric thread of light which measures the tension of that separateness. It is as though all of the universe of separated particles were playing return ball with each other. When a condition of oneness has been attained in matter, the electric tension ceases to be. Sodium chloride will illustrate this meaning. When sodium and chlorine desire separateness from their oneness of condition in sodium chloride, an electric strain is set up between that separated trinity. When the desire for separateness has gone out of sodium and chlorine, the electric tensions which bound them to the rest condition from which they sprang are voided. Likewise, sodium and chlorine are utterly voided. The reason for this is because all matter is a series of electric tensions. When the tensions cease, the conditions set up by them cease. It is as though two children on a seesaw withdrew into their fulcrum. Sex tensions and strains intensify the farther they are removed from rest. When unbalanced sex tensions void their unbalance through interchange between the opposite electric desires which cause those tensions, electrical force ceases to be. Likewise, sex desire ceases to be. Electrical tension exists only between unbalanced electrical matter in motion, which is separated from other electrical matter in motion. Wherever there is a condition of rest, electricity ceases to be. Electricity is, therefore, a dual force which seemingly unbalances a condition of rest by dividing it into two opposite conditions and sets them in seeming motion. Interchange between the two opposites of motion voids the unbalanced condition at the end of each cycle of electric expression. As rest cannot be unbalanced save by illusion, electricity which causes that illusion has no existence. And a caption from the Divine Iliad. Behold in me the one inseparable. Two things there are not in my universe, there is but me. Everything that is of every other thing that is. Nothing is of itself alone. All things are indissolubly united. This is a universe of seeming, an imaged universe of thinking, an action universe of desiring. That which mind desireth will appear in the image of that desire. Seek ye therefore what ye will in me, and ye shall find it. Desire what ye will, and behold, it standeth before thee. Throughout the eons it hath been thine without thy knowing, even though thou hast but just asked for it. Sit ye not and ask, acting not, for thy desire will not come thy way to thee unaided by thy strong arms. Behold, I am within all things centering them, and I am without all things controlling them, but I am not those things which I center in them and control in space surrounding them. I am the center of my universe of me. Everywhere I am is the center of all things, and I am everywhere. From the Divine Iliad.